Hey there, it's Mrs. Rubery, and today we're going to review integers in the coordinate plane. Okay, so first we're going to look for pairs of integers themselves, which are positive and negative whole numbers, and the word descriptions. So the first one in the top corner I have is ascend 50 feet. Ascend means to go up, so that would be a positive 50. Okay, moving over in the top right-hand corner, I have descend 50 feet. Descend means to go down. And I remember that because descend has a D for down. So it's going to be a negative 50 feet. Next, I have a withdrawal of $100. If you withdraw money from the bank, you're taking it out. So it's going away. So that would be a negative 100, withdraw. The opposite of withdrawing is deposit. Deposit means you're putting money in your savings or in the bank. So that would be a positive 100. And lastly, at the bottom, I have 15 below sea level. If something's below sea level, it's under the water. So that would be a negative 15. And the opposite of that, 15 feet above sea level, would be a positive 15. All right, let's talk a little bit about integers and absolute value. So absolute value is the distance any integer is away from zero. And like we had talked about earlier in the year, distance is always positive. So even if I walk around backwards or I back a car up, the distance is always a positive amount. So as you can see in this picture, -4 and +4 are both 4 away from 0. So they both have the absolute value of 4. Absolute value symbols are shown with those straight lines before and after the number. Okay. Integers are always the same distance, or opposite integers are always the same distance from 0. And it asks, what are they? So the same numbers from 0 would be any opposite integers. Excuse me. So for example, a -8 and the absolute value of +8, they would both be 8 away from 0. All right, so we have some more matching here. In the top left-hand corner, the opposite of 4, so it's not asking for the absolute value, it's asking for the opposite. So on the opposite side of 0 from a +4 is a -4. Top right-hand corner, the opposite of the absolute value of 7. Well, the absolute value of 7 would be 7, so its opposite would be -7. Second line, the absolute value of 4. So how far away is 4 from 0? Remembering that distance is always positive, it's 4. The opposite of 8 would be a -8. Down in the bottom left-hand corner, the absolute value of -7. How far is -7 away from 0? It's 7 away. And finally, these last two, they are matching. If you look at the bottom one, it has a negative parentheses -8. So remember, parentheses are grouping symbols. They're different from absolute value. So you would say that the opposite of -8 would be +8. All right, so I need to put these integers in order from least to greatest. Before I do that, I like to write what their actual value is underneath them so it's easy to order them. So the absolute value of a -5 would be a +5 because it's 5 away from 0. The absolute value of a +3 would still be a +3 because absolute value is always positive, distance from 0. And the absolute value of a -2 would be 2. So now I'm going to put the original values here in order from least to greatest. So the smallest one there, working the furthest to the left on the number line, would be a -4. Cross that out. Getting a little bit bigger on the number line, we would have a -2. Moving up the number line to the right, we would have a +2, but we're going to use the original value, so the absolute value of -2. That one's done. Continuing, we have 3, or the absolute value of 3. Continuing, we have 5, the absolute value of a -5, or ordering the originals. And then our largest number would be 7. All right, use absolute value to determine the distance. A fly is flying 2 feet above the water. So that would be around here. A hawk is flying 15 feet above sea level. Okay, that's going to be way up here at 15. And 2. How far apart are they? Use absolute value to solve. So since both 15 and 2 are both positive numbers, they have the same sign. If you remember when we learned this, we can remember same, sign, subtract to get the distances. So the absolute value of 15 minus the absolute value of 2 would give us a distance of 13. They have the same signs, both are positive, or they're on the same side of 0. So we subtract them to find how far apart they are. Here's another one. A bird is flying 4 feet above sea level. So we have it here. And a fish is 2 feet under the surface of the water. That would be -2. How far apart are they? In this case, here's our water at 0. They're going across 0. When you go across 0, we need to add. Add across 0. And we can see that if I do little jumps, the bird would have to go down 4, and then under the water 2 more to reach the fish. So we're adding their absolute values. The absolute value of 4 plus the absolute value of -2, so that would be 4 plus 2, gives us a distance of 6. A fish is swimming 8 feet below sea level, so that would be a -8. And a shark is swimming 20 feet below sea level, -20. How far apart are they? So in this one, we have the same sign. They're both negative. Since they're on the same side of 0 and have the same sign, subtract. So I'm going to take the absolute value of a -20 minus the absolute value of a -8. 20 minus 8 gives me a distance of 12. All right, moving on to the coordinate plane. So some things to remember about the coordinate plane. The x-axis is the axis that's horizontal. So if you remember, make an X with your arms and then relax them. It makes a horizontal line. The y-axis is the vertical line going up and down. Same thing, if you made a Y with your arms and relax them, they would come together and make a straight line. Label the 4 quadrants. So when we learned the quadrants, this is a coordinate plane. So since it's a coordinate plane, coordinate starts with a C. So if we make a large C on here, and we follow the way that we made the C, it's going to help us label our quadrants. So our C started here, so that's quadrant 1. It moved over to the left, quadrant 2, and I'm using Roman numerals. It moved down, quadrant 3, and finally ended over here at quadrant 4. All right. Then the next step asks us to plot the following points. Remember, when we're plotting points, that we always have to go on the x-axis first. So we need to find the elevator number, And after we find the elevator, we ride the elevator up or down. So the first point, point A, is 3, 0. So I'm going to start at 0, and I'm going to go over to the right to positive 3, right here. And the second number is 0, so I'm not going to go anywhere. I'm just going to stay right there. The second point, that's A, is negative 4, positive 2. So I'm going to move over from the origin to negative 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, right here. And now the directions say positive 2. So I'm going to ride the elevator up 2 floors. 1, 2. And I can label that B. Point C, negative 1, negative 5. So I'm going to go to negative 1, 1 to the left of the origin, right here. And the second number is negative 5. So I'm going to go down 5 floors. 1, oops. Let me try to get that to move again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I'm at negative 1, negative 5, and I'll label that point C. And the last point is 0, negative 2. So I'm going to start at the origin, 0, just kind of stay there in the middle, but then I'm going to ride the elevator 2 floors down. 1, 2, and that would be point D. I don't know what's happening there. Okay, let's go to this one. Find the distance between the 2 points. So remember SSS, same sign subtract, or AZA, across 0 add. The first thing we're looking for, though, are coordinates that match. So we're going to look at the X coordinates. I have a negative 2 and a negative 2. And the Y coordinates, I have a negative 5 and a negative 8. The ones that match, we're going to cross out. We don't need to worry about those. And we're going to find the distance between the ones that do not match. So I have same signs, a negative 5 and a negative 8. So I'm going to subtract their absolute values. 8 minus 5 would give us a distance of 3. All right, little game to play. I'll just pick that character, and let's review with the questions. All right, what is the distance between a negative 1, 5, and a negative 1, 9? In this case, the X values match the negative 1s. So I'm going to find the distance between the 5 and the 9. They're both positive, so I'm going to subtract. 9 minus 5 would be 4. Next question. What quadrant is negative 2, negative 5 located in? So if I go to negative 2, I'm moving to the left 2. Negative 5, I'm moving down. That puts me in the third quadrant. And I like to draw a little picture for myself as I figure these out. Make a little coordinate plane, label the quadrants, and move to it. If a triangle has the coordinates, I listed them all out, and all of its X coordinates change to their opposite, what quadrant would the triangle move to? So if I change the X coordinates, that would be the first one, to the opposite, now they're all positive. If I have a positive X and a positive Y, I'm in quadrant number 1. What is the distance between a negative 3, 5 and a 5, 5? The Y coordinates match with 5s, so I'm finding the distance between a negative 3 and a positive 5. They have different signs, so I'm going across 0, so I'm going to add their absolute values. So the absolute value of 3 plus the absolute value of 5 is going to give me a distance of 8. And I won, since I was the only one competing.